Good morning, everyone, and welcome to episode 195 of the On Air Advocate. Where at the On Air Advocate, we look to provide education, support, and empowerment for all of those with different abilities, mental and medical illnesses, and their caregivers. For those of you who may not know me, my name is Tammy Flynn, and I am the host and producer of the On Air Advocate. And I am super excited if you are here this morning joining us, or whether you are catching this on the replay. Now, as always, if you think any of the content that we are talking about today could be relevant for anyone in your network or your circle, please hit the share button, or whether you're viewing us on YouTube or Twitter, share it with your friends however you can. Now, as you guys know, we kicked off yesterday our mental health awareness series. And I am so excited to have here on day 2 of our series, Chanel McCord. She is a licensed therapist, a minister, author, and owner and founder of Oasis Consulting Center and Wellness Group. Welcome, Chanel.
Thank you so much for having me, Tammy. I'm excited to be here this morning, especially to talk about this topic of mental health. It is my heart passion. And so I'm excited to be able to share with everyone today and provide some helpful tips on how we can manage during this time of the pandemic. So as Tammy stated, I am Chanel McCord. I am a licensed clinical therapist. I'm in the state of New Jersey. So we are on two different sides of the U.S. right now. So I am in New Jersey. I do have my own counseling center currently where I serve children, I serve families, and as well as I serve adults as individuals, working on many different mental health issues and concerns. Namely, I work with a lot of women on what we call women's issues. So a lot of anxiety issues, identity issues, concerns of a lot of women reintegrating back into the work world after having not been working for a while. So just many different topics and issues that I touch on. I do that by night. By day, I'm actually a school therapist. And so I have the wonderful opportunity to work with children in Camden, New Jersey, in middle school and helping them. I work in what's called an anchor program. And so basically what we do is children who may have what's labeled as emotional disturbance that may need an additional support to get through their school day, to get through their academics. I'm on staff there to be able to help them as well. So that is very rewarding work for me. Absolutely love doing that. And also I am a licensed minister. So my heart passion, I know my heart passion is my faith. I love my faith. I love the Lord. I love doing the work of the Lord, being able to teach, being able to help people in their faith. For me, I believe that counseling and my faith go hand in hand. When I was in school and we were studying, I went to a Christian school. And one of the things that they would say is that we do what's called soul care. Our goal is to take care of the souls of people so that people have happier and brighter souls. And so it just seemed fitting that as a minister and as a therapist that I'm able to bring the two together and marry the two. And so I love the fact that I have the spiritual background as well as the clinical background. It really helps me in the work that I do. And last but not least, I actually, a couple of years ago, authored a mental health journal. So I am an author as well. And I like to say it is about the first 3 to 5 sessions when you start counseling. Usually when you start counseling, your therapist will take you on a journey to get to know more about you, kind of see what are the issues, what are the goals, what are the things that we're working on. And so I wrote this journal to mimic that. It's called Jumpstart Journal. It's completely for people who just want to kick off their mental health journey. You don't know where to begin. I might want to try counseling. I'm not sure what it's about. You go through this journal, guided activities on your own, and it gives you a good starting place so that you know, okay, if I do start counseling, I know where I want to go as far as goals, or do I really need counseling or not? So that has been my latest venture, and I have a companion book coming along with that soon. I'm in the works of writing. So thank you again for having me. That is just a little bit about me.
I love it though. And you know what, you are so well-rounded in all the different areas you're in. And so when we talk about mental health, the fact that you serve adults and you serve children, you know what I'm saying? And in different areas too, not just in the counseling center, in the school.
Absolutely.
And as you know, we have spoke about on the phone quite a bit, you know, as well as we're going to speak about today. We are in this pandemic, and you know, though for some of us it feels like we're very isolated, we are truly though all in this together, and we all are going through our own emotional journeys, you know, to know that you're not alone. And even being in different states, what the state of New Jersey is experiencing may be different than the state of Wisconsin is experiencing.
Right.
And so I think that sometimes with social media and the things that are out there, the way we make judgments, I mean, that can be
Right.
an emotional thing too. It's like, you don't know what everyone is traveling through. Those who have lost their job, lost their businesses, hardships with, family at the time, the states that are called hotspots.
Right.
You know,
Right.
New Jersey, is considered a hotter spot,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Absolutely.
as well as for the demographical area of our state. Our main city is Milwaukee in Milwaukee County, and the city of Milwaukee is very much of a hot spot. And so I think depending on where you're living, your experience with this pandemic is a tiny bit different as well.
Right. Right.
You're affected. And so can you kind of, lead us into that? I know that you have some tips for managing during this pandemic.
Right.
Just overall, with all of your experiences and all the different avenues you've worked in, things that you've just visually seen yourself during this time.
Right. Right. One thing, as you were sitting down, as you were talking about how we're walking the journey out differently,
Mhm.
while it is different depending on where you live, whether you're in a hot spot or not, one of the things I've coined the term, we are in a global grief. We
Mhm.
are in a global grief. So even though we're walking it out differently and it looks very different for everybody, there's still a commonality of what we're all experiencing, right? It's not going to be exactly the same, but we are all experiencing a loss. The biggest loss that all of us are experiencing is that loss of connection. I like this say, they told us that it was time to social distance. Social distancing is really a cute way of saying isolate yourself, right? And in the mental health world, we know that isolation is probably one of the number one signs that something isn't right. When people begin to isolate, that's when a lot of other things begin to fester. When people begin to isolate, if you think about it, you're left to your own devices, right? When you're around people, when you're talking, if I'm around my family and something sounds off, they're like, wait, why are you talking like that? That's different. Or you seem different. You look different, right? You have people in your life able to call you out. During this time of social distancing, I'm not seeing my family as much. I'm not seeing my friends as much. I'm not going out into the public. I'm working from home. So I don't even have the connection of my coworkers, right? Devices without monitoring. There's nobody there to monitor if your countenance doesn't look as bright as it used to be. Your words, you usually don't talk like that. What's going on? And so we're left to isolation. So automatically, when we were told to social distance, we were automatically put into a situation where our mental health got called into question. Every single person in the world, right? We're not even talking about just the United States at this point. We are talking about the world. So we are definitely experiencing a global grief during this time. So isolation is just one of those things that people are dealing with, right? But also understanding, and I do want to back up a second, is that grief is not just death. And a lot of times people confuse that if you think we're grieving, that means I lost somebody physically, or even I lost a pet, because people grieve over pets. Grief is also subtle losses. So like that loss of connection, there are many graduates right now. They're not going to get to enjoy those graduations. Thinking about the seniors, they're not going to be able to go to their senior prom. They're not getting senior class trips, right? All of those things, those are losses to be grieved. Employment. There are people who have lost employment, people whose income and finances don't look the same. People think, I'm experiencing a depression. Grief often hides as other emotions. And so that's important to understand too. So sometimes it's like, oh, I just feel depressed, or maybe I'm just angry, or different things just going on. You may actually be grieving a loss and not even realizing it, because those things are losses to us as well. Anything where I feel like a void has been put into my life, something that was important to me, something that helped me in my everyday lifestyle, any type of void automatically connotates a grief, and I'm maybe grieving that. And so I think a lot more people are grieving during this time than they realize, but we're calling it other things. And the important thing to understand as you're grieving, people really dislike when I say this as a therapist, because it goes against everything that people come to counseling for, right? But in order to actually process those emotions and be able to deal with it, the biggest biggest tip that I have is to sit with it.
Mm-hmm.
People don't like that because it's like, wait, now I came to counseling because this emotion was overwhelming. It was too much for me to handle. But
Right.
actually sitting with it helps me to process it, right? As people, our brains are constantly on a search for information. That's what gives us security, and that's what gives us comfort. The moment where we feel like I can't gather the information or I'm not in control, right? Because we like to be in control as people. The moment I feel that I'm out of control is the moment where you start to experience anxiety, or you may start to experience depression, because I can't control what's going on around me. And so because our brains are on a search for information, the best thing that we can do is sit with those feelings, because sitting with those feelings allows our brain to get the information that it needs. If I'm feeling sad, if I actually be intentional about sitting with it, then I can take myself down a processing path where I can be like, okay, I'm sad.
Mm-hmm.
Why am I sad? Like, what happened that may have triggered that? Okay, maybe I'm sad because, oh, I miss seeing my family. All right, I can't see my family as much. That's why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling. Well, what can I do to possibly solve the problem? Well, maybe I can't go to mom's house, but maybe I pick up the phone and video chat mom. See, what I'm doing is now I'm walking myself down a path of processing, sitting with the feeling to resolve it, but then also my brain is able to develop a solution as well to help me in the moment. And so that is going to be one of the biggest things that we can do during this time in order to help us to be able to deal with this global grief that we're dealing with. Sit with it. It's important. Sit with it, process it, allow your brain to get the information that it needs, because it helps to resolve those feelings. Something else that I like to offer people during this time is routine is everything. Oftentimes when we talk about routines being disrupted, we talk about that specifically looking in children. We talk about that looking on in the autism community. We talked about making sure that routines are on point and the routines are not disrupted. But the reality is that all of us as humans, we need routine.
Mm-hmm.
Routine is what makes our world go round. When my routine is thrown off, like you start to you go crazy. If you wake up 10 minutes later than you usually do, and you're like, oh my God, okay, I don't have time to eat, so I gotta put the eating away. And we get all frazzled and we get all over the place. But your routine is what's going to help to keep you going during this time. It's going to look different, yes, because I'm home all day. I'm working from home, so I'm seeing my students from home. I'm seeing my clients in my practice from home. My routine is going to look different, but that doesn't mean because I'm home that I throw routine out the window. That is actually the worst thing that we can do. The difficult part is when this pandemic first started, first it started as 2 weeks. Everybody, we thought, okay, 2 weeks, we were going to be in lockdown. 2 weeks, I got it. I can do 2 weeks. That's nothing. Well, 2 weeks turned into 3. 3 turned into 6. And here we are on week 8 of the lockdown. And who knows how much longer we'll actually be in lockdown,
Now in your area, in your state, where are you guys at with things, just to have an idea?
Mm-hmm.
Where are you guys at with openings or possible openings or any of that kind of thing?
Right. So we just got notification a week ago that the schools are officially closed for the rest of the year.
Okay.
Our governor did decide to open the parks, the national parks and things like that, as kind of just like a test, like a trial, to see how things go. So right now, parks are open. The stores, you still only have like your grocery stores and like Walmart and Target. Everything else is still locked down, still social distancing measures. Things are not as, people are not as frazzled anymore. The stores are not as crowded anymore because I think, people are starting to get into a groove with it. But we don't really have a date as far as our governor has not given us a date when, yes, we're going to open up this day and this time. So we're still kind of waiting on that.
So is this set up? Because I know for people who plan and prepare, like our state has devised the phase 1, phase 2, phase 3.
Mm-hmm.
Where those dates actually happen is another thing. But I'm saying, I think it's to give people that reassurance, the planners in the world, the people who like to be prepared, giving them, even if they change it, which
right,
is like phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Do you guys have phases?
We do, but it has not been rolled out yet.
Okay.
I think because, like you said, New York right now is hit the hardest, and the US, New Jersey is second in line to New York.
Okay.
So, and because we're so close to New York and, the overpopulation of cities and things like that, our governor is a little bit slower to roll out information.
Mhm.
So we do know we did mention in watching some news, if I'm honest, I try to stay away from the news a little bit. That's another tip of self-care. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But we do know that we're moving towards reopening slowly some things. Like they have different levels of businesses that will be considered essential, and when they'll slowly start to roll out. But what our governor keeps saying is opening the parks was kind of a test. If things don't go well, people are still not social distancing, he says that he'll be quick to close them back up again. So I think like this is our state test, if you will. We're all on a pop quiz to see if we're gonna maintain social distancing during this time. But I agree, that little bit of information helps. That little bit of information helps, which is why I believe we're getting it in 2-week to 30-day increments. My belief is, I'm not speaking on behalf of the state of New Jersey. My belief is they already kind of know about when and how they want to do things. But I believe back in March, they knew they were going to close the schools and things. But if they had told people back in March school was closed for the rest of the year, it would have been an uproar. People would have lost their minds. It's easier to take it in bite-sized chunks. So I think that they are purposely giving it to us in bite-sized chunks, so that it's more digestible. That's my thought process about it.
No, that is my thought too. I remember when the malls and stuff started closing. Before that, it was like one store was closing, and they were first limiting
Mm-hmm.
hours. Then one store closed, then
Yep.
another store closed, and then you're thinking, why is the mall open if all the stores are closed? And then they did it because as humans, it's easier to digest things in small bites. You're so right. Then
Absolutely. Absolutely.
there's too much change. So that brings us into social media, and I mean, I'm sure you have a lot to talk
Mm-hmm.
about that, but I've removed the TV out of my bedroom, so
Yes.
remove it.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think, one of the things that the other big thing that we have to do as people, okay, so I said, I'm gonna contradict what I said earlier, because earlier I said our brains are on the search for information, so we have to give it the information. But there's also a thing called information overload, right? And when this pandemic first started, like we were all tuned in. Like I had my phone, I'm on a computer, I got the TV going. I just needed what's going on, what's happening. But at some point, it became too much. At some point it became too much, because the reality is, if you watch Fox News, you're getting one story. If you watch CNN, you're getting another story. If you watch ABC, you're getting something else. If you read a news article, you're getting one thing. Facebook has their opinions, Twitter has their opinions, Instagram thinks this way. You are getting so much contradictory information from people. Everybody's reality is different, right? We just talked about that. Wisconsin looks a lot different from what New Jersey looks like right now. New Jersey looks a lot different from what New York looks like. So depending on who you're talking to, you are jumping into somebody else's reality. And so now you're getting a distorted sense of reality for yourself, of what your reality will look like. And it's just too much information. At some point, we have to learn, get what you can. I heard somebody say, I watch the news every 3 days. That's it. Every 3 days. I'll go in every 3 days. I may watch it for an hour. I'll see what they have to say, and then I'm done. I will not turn it on for another 3 days. And if I start scrolling Facebook and there's all kinds of stuff on it, I put it away. Because if you overwhelm your system, you overwhelm your mind with too much information and contradictory information, you start to develop a distorted sense of reality for yourself. Your perception becomes distorted when it doesn't have to be, because that does not apply to you. And we have to remember, yes, while there's a lot of factual information going across, there's a lot of opinions going across on social media and on the news channels. So we will take people's opinions and what people think and try to make it reality when their opinions are not reality at all. And so and it's hard sometimes to decipher what is what. It really is. And so you just have to really take the news and take all that information in bite-sized chunks. Step away from social media, step away from the news. If you're going to watch TV, find you a show to binge watch. Find your favorite show and just enjoy it, right? Because our brains need a rest as well. When you don't allow your brain to rest, that can also produce anxiety symptoms, because you got all this information flowing, and now your brain is already shooting millions and trillions of information is constantly going on a daily basis. Even if it doesn't come into our awareness, our brains are constantly processing information. Why give it more to process, more things to confuse you about, more things to consider? If you're already dealing with your emotions, do you really want to have to figure out what news outlet is right and if I should be fearful, or if I should go out and do stuff? It's too much. Step away as much as possible. It will actually save you a lot of anxiety in the long run.
Right. And that mind thinking, Chanel, I'm sure you can agree, like the lack of sleep and the need for self during this time. It's so funny. I watch some of the algorithms and stuff on Facebook and on our social media channels. And for the first time ever, it can be literally 3 o'clock in the morning, 2 in the morning, and there's still, hundreds of people on Facebook. And I just of how much stress and anxiety is going on that people are not sleeping well. People are up all hours of the night and they're thinking. And I think so much of that is fueled by all of those, like you're saying, all opinions. Because when you step back and you really think about things, like I like to tell people, is that think about how many times you went to the doctor in your life, and they send you for another test and another test and another test and another test, but sometimes they don't know. And it's just humans. They're not a robot. They're not a computer. They don't know. And they don't have an answer. And in this case, I think a lot of it is that we have a hard time as humans accepting that we can't get a black and white answer.
Absolutely. Yep.
On this. I mean, I think that there's just a lot of a gray in this right now, and a lot of learning that has to happen. And, and I think people who are going to give us some of those answers in time, they don't know themselves yet. So,
yeah. And it would be helpful if people would just say that. Like you said, if I go to the doctor and you're just sending me for tests, it provokes more anxiety in me. I'm like, oh my God, now you're sending me for a test for this. Oh my goodness. Why am I being tested for cancer? Or why am I being tested for this? Or why am I being tested for that? Rather than a doctor just saying, listen, we're not sure, so we're going to send you for these tests to rule out as much as possible. That would help. That helps me. Oh, he's not saying that I may have this, that, or the third. He's saying that he's trying to rule out. It would help if those, like you said, who can give us the answers would just say, we don't know right now. But that's not what we do, right? We try to be, people are constantly trying to be at the experts and trying to be at the top of their game and things, when really in reality, it's okay to say, I don't know. That would help people.
Yeah. I do think it would, and it would eliminate some of that fake news, I think, that's out there. Just be like, this is perception. I'm not really sure. And we have to do a lot of trial and error. And unfortunately, with this, trial and error means human lives, which is really devastating.
Absolutely. That's really good, and even consider that it does mean human lives in a physical sense. But again, and I always bring it back to mental health, it also means the mental health of people. Anxiety is at an all-time high. I have never, clients that I've been working with for a while, the level of anxiety that I am seeing in them during this time is just astounding. And most of it is coming because of what the news is saying. Or, one day it's, make sure that you're wearing your mask. I just saw a latest news story saying that wearing a mask could actually make it worse. So it's like, they're saying, wear your gloves when you go out. Oh no, don't wear gloves because cross-contamination. It's just like, and so I literally have to tell my clients, like, save your own self, save your own mental health. You are the only one that can do that. It is your life. It's either your mental and emotional life, or for some people, unfortunately, it is literal physical lives being lost because of misinformation and miscommunication going across. And so the only thing we can do is protect ourselves. We have to be at the forefront of self-protection in order for us to make it through the season, if we're going to do so more mentally and emotionally well.
Right. So if we go back over some of those, so sitting with it is one of the things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your recommendation. Um,
Routine.
routine, staying within that routine. We gotta be typing.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta get better at this to be able to type.
Right.
I'll have to go back and do that. Or if anybody is watching, if they can pop that in for me. So routine, and then
And then I would also say staying productive.
mhm,
You want to try to stay as productive as possible, right? Productivity is what makes our world go round as people. Whether we're productive as the mom and making sure, we're getting the kids up and we're getting them dressed and we're getting them out the house, and then we're handling what we have to handle, whether it's your career, you want to stay productive. I have this saying where I say, the more I do, the more I will do. The more I don't do, the more I won't do, if that makes sense. So I'll say that again because that can be confusing. The more I do, the more I will do. The more I don't do, the more I won't do. Right. And so, what that basically means and what that is saying is, when you go out and you get up and you're being productive, you ever just have this burst of energy take over you? Like, you may have gotten up tired, but you got into the day, you're like, oh, I got this burst of energy. I cleaned the house and I wrote the report and I cooked dinner and I made the 8 phone calls. And you're just like, wow, because there's something about doing that gets you doing. But the other side of it is, there's something about not doing that gets you comfortable and it keeps you in a place of not doing. And so you have to try to stay as productive as possible during this time. But I do want to highlight that there are two different forms of productivity, right? You have the productivity, which is the act of doing. So that's the getting up, it's the running errands, it's the making sure work gets done, it's keeping your brain flowing, right? But then you also have the side of productivity that is the act of being. Right. And so for some people, this is a very stressful time. And I want to give voice to that and I want to give ear to that. For some people, this pandemic has been extremely stressful. And if they were able to wake up in the morning and take a shower, that was all that they had in them to give for that day. Guess what? You were still productive. You were still productive. There's no slight being taken away from you because you didn't go write 5 books that day. No, you were still productive, because what your body needed, what your mind needed, what your emotions needed in that moment was just to be. And that is okay. Those days when you just need to just be, that is okay. Sit with that, own it, and give yourself permission to just be. But those days when you do have the burst of energy and you can do the act of doing side of productivity, get up and start doing. Make sure that you're making some movement, make sure that you're doing something, but staying productive, however, whatever that means for you, is going to be so important so that you're able to ride out this pandemic. You want to keep your brain active, you want to keep your body active, right? If I was to move into another tip, it would be stay active. Productivity and activity go together. You got to find ways to stay active, right? Because our health is on the line. It's one thing to social distance and we're staying home all day. I can't speak for anybody else, but I know for me, the refrigerator has become my best friend, right?
I'm like, walk away from the refrigerator.
Right, right. I did not want it to become my best friend, but it's just like, it's just always looking at me. It's like my refrigerator learned my name. Overnight, it just learned my name and it just calls me. If we're not careful, we can actually put ourselves in a worse health position. And the least healthy we are, the least mentally and emotionally healthy that we are, because it's a mind and body and spirit connection. You can't have one without the other, right? I remember maybe a year or two ago, I had started my health journey, and I managed to drop 35 pounds. And dropping that, I was more brighter. I was more confident. Like,
Right.
you couldn't tell me nothing. You could not say anything to me because I just knew that I looked good. So I felt good, and on a journey of trying to drop more. But your health is very much connected to your mental and your emotional. And so you want to stay active. That can be hard during this time. You can't go to the gym. Then be creative. I tell people all the time, I do what's called TV laps. There are times that I'll put on like a daytime television show and I'll just walk my living room. It's a 30-minute show. So I'm watching the show, but I'll just walk my living room. I'll do laps around my living room for the entirety of the show to stay active. Our governor said the state may be shut down, but outside is not. Go for a walk, go for a jog, catching nature.
Snowing. I don't know what's going on in New Jersey, but in Wisconsin, we got snow.
We were supposed to, they told us on Saturday, but it missed us. We only got rain. So I'm grateful for that.
Oh, that's so good.
I'm so grateful that it missed us. So if you can't go outside, you can do TV laps. Exactly. Or have a dance party in a household, and maybe an opportunity to get the family together. We put on some music and we have a dance party. So yes, you have to be creative about it. You can do YouTube videos and different things like that, but just make sure that while you're staying productive, you're also staying active in the process. That's so important.
We started at the On Air Advocate twice a week in the morning since the pandemic started. We do a workout, an adaptive workout.
Nice.
So it's just 15 minutes. And if you want to make it go longer, just, repeat the exercises, but it's to get yourself moving, and you don't even realize, like, even just taking water bottles and doing this energy it uses.
Yep.
So it's great. And I wanted to chat with you, and I thank you ladies that are sticking those comments in there of what you're saying. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. I wanted to chat with you about connection, because I was talking about that yesterday. And, for us, a lot of us that are either mompreneurs, entrepreneurs, or, just someone who is social.
Right.
Connecting is so, so important.
Yes.
And what would you say some of the best ways, to find that connection, how important that really is?
Yeah. So kind of like what we talked about earlier, connection is everything during this time. I said it earlier and I'll say it again. Social distancing was a cute way of saying isolating, but it sounded harsh if we said isolate yourself. Connection. So now I'm going to bring in my minister's hat, right? I'm going to bring in that spiritual hat. We were created to be relational beings. God created us to be relational people. We were not created to be alone. We weren't. I'm reminded of a scripture in the Bible where it talks about where the first man was created and God looked at him and said, it's not good for man to be alone. And woman was created. We were created to be in connection with people. Like I said earlier, when we're left to our own devices, it's a scary place because we have nobody to challenge our thought processes. We have nobody to monitor us. And so during this time, we're going to have to be even more so creative about connection. Like we talk about with being productive, we talked about staying active. You're going to have to be creative about making sure that you get connection. And the wonderful thing about it is that we do have technology, so it helps, right? I get it. I don't necessarily want to talk to my mom through a phone screen. I don't want to have to see my nephews or talk to them by phone. I want them there with me. I want them in my arms so I can hug them. We can't do that right now, but it doesn't mean that you have to lose connection. I had the opportunity to do a game night. Some friends, when the pandemic first started, they had a couples game night via Google Hangouts. We had a blast. It was 1 hour and it was all the couples and everybody was in their house. It was probably about 6 of us and we had a game night. We had an amazing time. It was so much fun. Just the other night, I want to say 2 or 3 nights ago, there's a show that my husband and I watch that some friends watch as well. And so one of my friends decided, okay, so after the show, we're going to have a discussion party. So we got on Zoom. A bunch of us got on Zoom and we discussed the show. We reflected on the show, what we think was coming next, what we think this person felt, right? Finding creative ways of connecting with people. Technology makes that possible. I can't imagine us going through this about 20, 30 years ago. I can't imagine it. 20, 30 years ago, like it would have been very difficult because we wouldn't have had the same levels of connection. And so you just want to make sure that you're being creative about it. I had a friend say, once a day, she is intentional about connecting with one person a day. So, and people that she hasn't talked to before. I think during this time, we are in a place where we have the ample time now to be able to connect with. Perhaps there was somebody I've been meaning to catch up with and I haven't been able to. Now you have time to do that. Friends that you kind of just grow out of touch with, we haven't talked in a while, being intentional about connecting with those people again. Again, a wonderful opportunity I had a couple of days ago to connect with some friends that I went to grad school with. We hadn't talked in a while. They're both on different sides of the world. And it just so happened on the same day, they both contacted me and we were able to connect, right? Those little spurts of connection are still worth it. We think, oh, well, talking on the phone, and it's just talking on the phone. No, those little spurts of connection make the world of difference during this time of social distancing. Don't despise little spurts. I would rather a text conversation to make sure that you're okay than for you to not be communicating with anybody at all and you're left to your own devices, because that will foster depression in us. That will foster anxiety. And then we start to have all of these outlandish thoughts. We start to think, oh, well, nobody cares. I haven't talked to anybody. We go into this pity party, this woe is me kind of situation when no, I will take a little spurt. If you have a 5-minute conversation with somebody, I'll take a 5-minute conversation, because it's what we have right now. So we have to work and utilize our resources during this time. But the only thing that is not an option, it is not an option to completely disconnect. That is the worst thing that you could do for yourself during this time.
And I would like to add to that, what I have found myself is to actually reach out. Sometimes when you're considered the strong friend, or strong, panure of whatever kind,
Right.
I sought out personally, because aside from the On Air Advocate, I do own some other businesses, some other business owner friends of mine, to just have those conversations, because my other business is currently closed under the orders.
Right.
So my employees are out of work, and you know what I'm saying? It is a difficult time. And sometimes we let our pride, or we don't want to inconvenience them. I call out my friends. I call them and I'm just like, hey, I need to talk. Can you just listen?
Right.
Give me your thoughts. And you know what? Last week I had 3 of those conversations, and it made me feel world better. Like, it just helps you to process. And so, don't ever deny yourself that, thinking that somebody's gonna be too busy, or you don't want to burden them, partners are there, to help you rise.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you don't know, like you said, you don't know how you reaching out to them may help them. There are a lot of times that I may be feeling some kind of way. And if somebody reaches out to me because they're having an issue, it helps me to take my mind and my emotions off of whatever it is that I'm going through, whatever it is that's burdening me. So a lot of times, and so it serves a dual purpose, to reach out. Communication does flow, 2 different ways. And like you said, even a quick text conversation, I have, friend chats. We have the girl chats, the girl chat groups, whatever. And we just say silly stuff to each other. We'll just throw stuff in there and it just sparks conversation. Even if it's a 2-minute conversation, so what? Those little spurts make all the world of difference, because as people, we have to know that we are seen and we're not forgotten.
Yes, definitely. And anyone who's listening today, if you guys, I know, Chanel, you had some great ideas of connecting and those fun things you did, reviewing a show and game nights and all that kind of stuff. If anyone's listening, once you or watching it on the replay, drop it below in the comments. What fun things that you guys have done with your family, with your friends? Have you connected, even as a distant thing, like social distancing in person? My best friend for Mother's Day, she rolled up in her car with a mask on. Way delivery, put it down. We chatted across the driveway with masks on still, but you're still able to connect and have that.
Exactly. We did a similar thing for my grandmother. My grandmother is in an assisted living facility during this time, and grateful, her assisted living facility is doing well. None of the residents got hit. 3 of the staff did, but none of the residents got hit. And so they are on lockdown. But we had family come down and we had signs. They brought her to the window. So we're outside, we're making noise with the signs. We had balloons for her. We had her gifts that the nurses came and got for her. And it was just, her countenance was just so bright. It was just an amazing time, an amazing event. Yes, it was like 5 or 10 minutes, but just to see our faces. No, we couldn't touch, but there was still a sense of connection there. And so even that makes it difference. And she's so cute. She was telling us, why don't y'all go get some lawn chairs and just sit right out on the lawn and I'll just look at you from the window. Because connection, she felt a sense of connection, even though it was through a window.
Yes, yes, I love that. So we would love to hear anybody else's ideas of things you've done because I'm sure people have gotten really creative.
Mm-hmm.
I saw one
Yeah.
man who got a crane. His mother was like on the second floor of an assisted some kind of a facility that she couldn't leave, and he
Right.
got one of those like painting crane things where he went
Oh, wow.
to go give her her birthday stuff. I'm sure that they stopped that though because it's probably a little unsafe.
Probably a little liability issue, but creative.
Very, very creative.
Yeah, by
Well,
any means necessary.
in kind of wrap up, is there anything else? You have just given so much information today, so many good golden nuggets and things for us to really follow that you would like to leave the audience with today.
I want to remind people more than anything to give yourself permission, be forgiving of yourself. I think during times like this, when we're going through difficult times, whether it's personally or as we're going through a pandemic, we're so hard on ourselves. We're
Mhm.
so hard on ourselves. We're constantly saying, oh, I should have did more. Oh, I did nothing. All I did was lay around all day. Oh, I should have did it. We're always, there's this saying, when I was in school, they would tell us, you want to teach your clients, don't should on yourself. Don't should on yourself during this time. If you should have done it, you would have done it. You didn't do it, so therefore it wasn't for you in the moment. It is okay. It's okay. Everybody's saying it's okay to not be okay. And it really is. Give yourself permission to just be during this season. We are all in a place of surviving. We are in survival mode. We're just trying to make it through a pandemic. None of us have gone this way before. This is new for all of us. In talking with my grandmother is 77 years old, and this is new for her. She was like, I've never experienced something where literally the world was shut down, in such a way. This is new for us. If you're living during this day or time, be forgiving of yourself. It is okay. If you get to it, great. If you don't, it's okay, because your body is speaking to you. Listen to your body. Listen to what your body is telling you that it needs. Like we said, that act of doing versus the act of being. If you just need to be, that is okay. That's just as important. That's just as productive. You are not going to get it right 100% during this time, but it's not going to help you to beat up on yourself. When life gets back to normal, whatever that normal may look like, the new normal, right? We'll pick up some things where we left off, but this is also a time and an opportunity to recreate some things. I'm already considering, when I go back to life as normal, how is that going to look different for me? So I'm being intentional about trying to recreate some new things for myself. Listen, I'm seeing all my clients online. I may not have to go back to my office because online is working out great and my clients love it. It's convenient. Figure out how you can create for yourself a sustainability plan, if you will, but be forgiving of yourself. Allow yourself to just be. If you need help, it's okay to get help, get support, whatever it is that you need during this time. This is a difficult time for the entire world. You are not in this by yourself.
You are not alone. That is for certain. Miss Chanel, where can people find you? If they want to get a hold of you, follow you, learn more about the services that you offer, where can they do that?
Absolutely. So I am on Facebook and Instagram primarily. You can find me on Facebook at Oasis Counseling Center and Wellness Group. You can also find me on Instagram at Oasis Wellness Group. I do right now, I'm in a mental health series myself. So every Wednesday, well, almost every Wednesday, I'm doing one Tuesday of this month. I have different speakers coming on. We're talking about different topics of mental health, but I'm constantly posting stories, just posting more ways of helping people. I do want to offer one resource that I think is helpful during this time. Wednesday nights during the pandemic, I do what's called the Wellness Check Support Group. And so what I'm doing, it's free. Anybody can join anywhere around the world, wherever you are. And just for 30 minutes, we get on and we just hold space for each other as we're struggling during this time of the pandemic. And we just talk. I may give some assignments and activities, but we're just there to support each other. And if anybody would like to sign up for that, you can go to bit.ly, bit.ly/Oasis Wellness Check. And sign up. Really simple form. But yeah, Facebook and Instagram, you can find me. And I want to thank you, Tammy, for having me on today. This was just awesome to be able to share and just have this conversation with you.
Yes, I love it. I loved it, and I love it. I could have talked to you for like 2 more hours. I really could.
I know.
Chanel, I'm going to have you, when we're done with this, if you can go into the comments for everybody and just drop that link when we're off the show. That'll be good so people can easily access it if they want to become part of that group.
Will do.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Chanel, for all your golden nuggets and your help. And just know, just like Chanel said, we are not alone in this. We are all in this together. So thank you so much. And if you guys want to know more about the On Air Advocate, you can head on over to onairadvocate.com, and all of our resources are there. If you're viewing this on Facebook, you can head up to the top of this Facebook page and hit the blue button. That will let you also into our private community. So with that, you guys have a fabulous day. Thank you so much, Chanel.
Bye, everyone. Have a great day.